Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Front Line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach, okay? So now Joe and I have decided we're going to do a little impromptu show. Joe, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You know what I love about what we do is we focus on all those things out there that are blowing up narratives, okay? And by the way, I just want to play this if you want to blow up a narrative.
You've been talking about on your show is your allegation that government officials are aiding in pedophilia, child trafficking, and the grooming of children, right?
Well, you mean like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the Clintons?
Joe Resinello.
I know you love it.
By the way, there are certain scenes in movies that I've watched in my life. I'm a movie guy, okay? I've seen them all from rated R to rated G, okay? So I've watched it where I could watch a scene over and over again. I'll give you an example. The scene in The Deer Hunter when Robert De Niro, who's become a real disgraziad in the last few years, is on the river, and he's playing Russian roulette with the Vietnamese. And I could watch that scene over and over, and it never loses its impulse. That shot, that Alex Jones clip, and the way whoever put it together has Joe Rogan and the other guy, and they're going crazy. And Alex Jones, and the reason why we played that, not just to be a little bit funny, okay, is Alex Jones just in one line just blew up a narrative. The narrative was that they were going after Alex Jones for this, that, or the other thing, whatever it was. And he's like, yeah, well, like Jeffrey Epstein and the Clintons. Boom, your whole narrative goes up in smoke. You saw the face, Joe, on the part of the prosecutor,
lawyer and the judge.
Right, the lawyer, the judge. All right, because you blow up a narrative. Joe, here's one thing, and we're going to play this, and then we're going to shut up, and then we're going to come back and comment. Okay. Tucker Carlson is very good, aside from the fact, by the way, so everybody knows, Joe and I go way back with Tucker Carlson, okay? Way back. Because Joe and I watched Tucker Carlson when he was on CNN years ago on Crossfire, because that's when everybody got to know Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson has become a major force in American culture, in American discourse, in American politics. And you want to know what? He's not being dismissed as a crackpot. I don't care what the left says. He's not a crackpot. Now, where am I going with this? Joe, the prevailing wisdom that the mainstream media tries to impose on everybody is that there was nothing wrong with the election of 2020. By the way, all the same people that say that there was everything wrong with the election of 2016. Leaving that aside, that's another conversation. There was everything wrong with the election of 2020. And when Tucker Carlson is actually, who was alluding to it in the past, now he is outwardly saying, overtly saying that, yes, there was election fraud. I want to play this for the audience. Couple minutes, don't go anywhere. Play this and then come back, and Joe and I are going to talk about it.
It's remarkable. Justin Haskins is a senior fellow at the Heartland Institute. He joins us now with details. Justin, thanks so much for coming on. If you could just start by giving us the results, the shocking results of this poll, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So it was pretty straightforward. We asked people a series of questions. The first of which is, or one of the first questions was, did you vote in the 2020 election, and did you vote with an absentee ballot? And if they answered yes to both of those questions, then we asked a bunch of questions related to voter fraud. We didn't tell them that we were asking, did you commit voter fraud? We just asked them about various behaviors. So, for example, we asked people, did you vote in a state where you're no longer a legal resident? That's a pretty straightforward question. If you're not a permanent resident of a state, you can't vote there. 17% of people, nearly 1 in 5, said yes, they did do that. We asked people, did you fill out a ballot for someone else on their behalf? That's also illegal. You're not allowed to fill out someone else's ballot. 21% of people said yes to that question. We asked if people forged the signature of a friend or family member on their behalf, with or without their permission. We actually put that in the poll question, and 17% of people said yes to that. So, all told, it's at least, and I say at least, 1 in 5 mail-in ballots involved some kind of fraudulent activity. But we didn't just stop there. We also asked everyone, whether they voted via mail-in ballot or not, so in-person voting as well, do you know anyone who personally, in your personal life, a friend, a family member, acquaintance, someone from work, has anyone ever admitted to you that they did one of these kinds of forms of voter fraud? And 10% and 11%, we asked 2 different questions on that, said yes, people admitted to me that they committed voter fraud.
So, Joe Rossinello, you see where he's going with that. He's basically saying, and I want to throw this over to you. I'm really getting tired, and I've had personal conversations with people who think that if you think along the lines of what Tucker Carlson thinks and this gentleman, who, by the way, he conducted a poll, so it's not like he's pulling this out of his you-know-what, if you know what I mean, okay? He conducted a poll. It's not like you and me saying it. This guy is a pollster. He got the response of people that are out there. We rely on polls in America all the time for all sorts of different things, political, okay? And I say, if you look at where Trump was when they shut down the ballots, when they shut down the voting, okay, that night on Election Day, he was way ahead in every state that he lost. Ahead so much at 11 o'clock at night, which, by the way, up until about 5 minutes ago in human history, at 11 o'clock at night, if you're ahead by 500,000 votes in Michigan, you're winning Michigan. Leaving that aside, this is Tucker Carlson actually going into the breach along with this gentleman and doing a poll and finding out, you want to know something? There are problems here. There are problems here. Now, there's a lot that I want to talk about, but I want your initial reaction to that, and then we'll go from there.
Before we even talk about this, I want to just back it up. Mail-in ballots, this is a known fact. I'm not even going to reference Barack Obama. I'm going to reference Jimmy Carter and James Baker. A study conducted on mail-in ballots. They said they are risky. They said that. The study, bipartisan. That's factual. Why do we still have mail-in ballots now? I put that to the audience. You give me that answer. I can't give you an intelligent reason why we would. Also, leaving everything that was just said aside, Mark Zuckerberg spent $400 million on the election to influence it. The mainstream media and other social media outlets censored stories, particularly the laptop story with Hunter Biden, that influenced votes. Also, electric voting machines are also a risky tool. I'm not saying that fraud was found. I don't have evidence of it. I'm being honest. It is a known fact that that is a risky tool. That is why paper should be used when it comes to vote, as in you fill it out on the spot and it's counted on the spot. So again, these are known facts. Known facts. Zuckerberg, censorship, and certain voting models, electronic voting machines, and mail-in ballots that are known to be risky. Right. Now, we had a situation. It was COVID. So people didn't want to go, and obviously they used that to their advantage. So why is that the new model now? I put that to any logical and objective and fair-minded person who's not talking from partisan politics or power politics. Why can't you show up and vote? Because it's a safer model. It simply is a known entity even before the 2020 election, and now it's the new model. The only thing I can conclude is it gives the oligarchy an advantage, which takes the power away from the regular man, and you should have a problem with that.
Joe Rossinello, listen, it doesn't give them an advantage. It gives them an out. Look, I don't care what anybody says, and I don't care if YouTube takes down this video, okay? That election was robbed. Everybody who had objective eyes. If I was a Republican, Joe, or excuse me, if I was a Democrat and I was watching it, I'd be like, okay, I'm glad Biden got elected, but not for nothing. That was pretty brazen on the part of the DNC and a lot of people out there. Because I wouldn't believe it because I can be objective about these things. Nobody's more objective than Joe and Joe when it comes, because we beat up on our own party more than we beat up on the other party. So it's not, this is not a Republican Democrat conversation. This is, did you rig the election? And the bottom line is this. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And also what they did, Joe, and it's important to note, they went around state law. They changed voting laws without accessing the voice of the people.
Well, go into that. Go into that and how John Roberts refused to hear that case in Pennsylvania. Go into that for those out there who are watching the front line with Joe and Joe Arsenello. Go into that and explain to people briefly why that happened.
In Pennsylvania, the governor changed the voting law without asking the people. He can't do that. You have to vote upon that. He used an emergency situation. Clarence Thomas wrote a very good dissent on it. Read it. Read what he says. John Roberts refused to take that case. That was wrong. That, again, people look through the wrong lens on this. I hate Trump, so I don't care. It's not about Trump. It's about the democracy. It's about the country.
Yo, I had a woman's, my wife and I had a, I want to expand on a point you just made. I'm going to bring it right back to you. We had a woman, very nice woman. I'm not judging her. Okay. Sitting right behind us in church after Brett Kavanaugh was being savagely attacked by that liar, Christy Blasey Ford. Okay. She's a liar and her handlers were liars. And we said to this woman sitting behind us, okay, in church, and said, isn't it terrible? This was before Mass. And said, isn't it terrible what they're doing to Brett Kavanaugh? She goes, I don't care. I don't like Trump. I said, no, it's not about Trump. I said, it's about what's going on with Brett Kavanaugh trying to attack his guy. I don't care. I don't like Trump. And she just kept saying it. That's the mentality you're dealing with, Joe.
But that's, you see, that is very short-sighted thinking, because if they do it to Trump, the pendulum.
They can do it to your candidate.
That's right. I don't understand how you could possibly think that way.
Oh, and by the way, Joe, but I just want to throw in one aside along those same lines. If you or I or anybody we know was on the street with kidnapping equipment and equipment that's designed to murder someone on Ketanji Brown Jackson Street or Elena Kagan Street or Sotomayor Street, okay, guess what? Not only would you have been arrested, we both, if it was somebody like you or me, we'd be dead. Okay,
you'd be in Leavenworth.
That's it. You're dead.
People, to that person and people like that, that's the wrong mentality. It's dangerous for the country. It's dangerous for democracy. You're giving your power to powerful people. You're turning it over. What makes America, or what made America, because it doesn't make it anymore, unique, is that regular people had a voice. We don't anymore. We simply don't.
Well, Democrats, Joe, listen, Democrats used to at least respect elections, and they don't anymore. Now, I do want to throw this over to you. I mean, Dietrich Bonhoeffer said it. He said, evil is only allowed, I'm paraphrasing, evil is only allowed to flourish because good men do nothing. And I think he borrowed it from somebody else, but let's give it to Dietrich Bonhoeffer, okay? Let's talk about the Republicans, okay? What was his name? Raffensperger in Georgia. Here in Arizona, Ducey, the governor. And so many Republicans, okay, that could have come to, let's say, now, that wouldn't have been coming to Trump's defense in 2020. It would have been coming to our defense. I voted for the guy. Warts and all. And Trump's got a lot of warts, okay? And I'm really questioning nowadays a lot of things about him. Having said that, I voted for him, all right? And my vote counts. And if I voted for him, I have my reasons. I have to stand before God for my vote for Donald Trump, okay? And all of these people, these Republicans, they all stabbed in the back. I argued with somebody, Joe, told me, well, what about the guy Raffensperger in Georgia? What about Ducey in Arizona? What about all these Republicans? What about all these judges? George Soros represents a group of people in the world. And by the way, George Soros, worth a few $1 billion, is a piker. He is a piker compared to some of the wealth that some of these people have. Joe.
Well, I'm going to give you
real quick. Carrie Lake has a video, has a recording that's out there where the head of the Republican Party in Arizona tried to bribe her. Okay. What do you think these people have? When you talk about somebody, Joe, or a group of people that have access to hundreds of billions of dollars, what's $10 million to them? That's my question to you. When you say, well, guess what? Who knows? I'm not saying they were. Maybe Ducey was bought off. Maybe Raffensperger was bought off. Maybe some of these people, maybe John Roberts was bought off. Why is that so far-fetched to people, Joe?
Well, what I'm going to tell you why you use the two states. Why? Because their corporate interests are not interested in Donald Trump, and that's why they did it. And I'm going to give you the example of something that just happened about a week ago in Tennessee, which is a very conservative state. A bill was put forth in the legislature in Tennessee that asked for a removal of all LGBTQ flags from public school. This is a conservative state. 8 senators abstained. The lieutenant governor voted against it, and it didn't pass.
Right.
A conservative state. Now you'd say, why? The people want that. But the people don't matter. What matters is the people in power know that their corporate interests in Tennessee want that.
That's
and
right.
That means more. And that's why we're having this conversation. People have to connect that dot. Their voice means more than you. And when enough people see that and know that, we now have a platform to fight. You see, they count on the media to throw smoke. They count on, frankly, when they can, to censor voices, big voices like Tucker Carlson, who has to be behind the paywall. We're giving you that video. That's behind the paywall.
Right.
They count on that. So the mainstream actually believes that it's a fair fight. It's not a fair fight. And I'm giving you an example. This happened a week ago.
Right.
In a very conservative state. This is not Illinois.
Because everybody, well, it's like you said, it's not everybody. Because like you said, the will of the people would be get the rainbow flag. Let me tell you something. You remember when I was back in New Jersey and we were doing the show a couple of years ago, and the parents in New Jersey went down to protest the LGBT nonsense. That's New Jersey.
There you go.
What happened to their voices, Joe Resinello?
On a Friday at 4:00.
That's right. That's right.
This is what people, your voice doesn't matter. Their voice does. And it's clear. I can give you evidence. I'm just giving you some good, solid evidence there. Now, getting back to, you mentioned the Trump situation. Why didn't Roberts take it? Because he's part of the establishment.
He's part of the machine.
It's not about
part of the machine.
It's power. And the powerful are not going to give the power back. That is why, I'll be honest with you, I actually think this next election is suspect. They're not going to allow.
Joe, they're all out there. All the conservatives, they're talking about polls. They're talking about issues. They're talking about things like, dudes, Tucker Carlson's got it right. He's talking about the one issue, the only issue that matters. Whatever position you take on any of these things. Donald Trump came out recently and he said, well, Roe versus Wade put abortion back where it's supposed to be in the States. Joe and I have a problem with that. We're probably going to still vote for the guy because the other side is evil and insane, okay? But I'm probably still going to vote for the guy, probably be less insane. So like they're all out there talking about issues. You want to say to yourself, if there's no integrity in the election process, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Well, that's why
they're all doing it, Joe.
That's why I can't take any of the debate serious.
None.
Any person who's objective knows that mail-in ballots are ripe for
Joe,
fraud.
Here's what they're trying to convince us, that 80 million people voted for this guy.
4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years.
Now the other night when we played that clip, we were laughing at it, but there's nothing to laugh about today, okay? Because the bottom line is this: you're going to try to convince me that guy actually got 80 million people to come out of their homes and go vote for him. And the guy who actually campaigned, okay, who has a brain cell. Maybe that's why I have some problems with Trump, is because he has a brain cell and he needs to think about these things more instead of listening to his handlers. And he does listen to his handlers, Joe. Don't think he doesn't, okay? But my point is, they're all out there talking about some issues. And you say to yourself, the guy I just played, they try to convince you, got 80 million votes in 2020. Do you really think we're all stupid? And the answer to that, Joe, is yes, they do.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And he's, just to set the stage for this particular election, he's not going to campaign. He's not going to debate.
Not going to debate. Not going to
And
debate.
all they're going to try to do is strategize and gerrymander. That is their and to condemn. They don't have a platform. To condemn Trump, gerrymander, mail-in ballot strategy, and no debates, very few campaign appearances. How is that possible? Well,
It's not.
is possible because he's going to get tens of millions of votes.
Joe, John Adams had the campaign. James Monroe had the campaign. Thomas Jefferson had the campaign. Andrew Jackson had the campaign. Abraham Lincoln had the campaign. Every president in United States history had the campaign. And they're going to try to tell me that this guy who has dementia, by the way, okay, this guy got 80 million votes, got more votes than an articulate man like Barack Obama. You're going to tell me this guy? Please, guys, do me a favor. If you don't campaign, you know what happens in American politics? You lose. If you
And Joe, I put the question to every person who's objective listening to this. There is no reason why we should have mail-in ballots right now.
No, none.
None. There is no reason why you should not have to be able to produce ID when you show up to vote. You can't look me in the face and give me an intelligent answer. Not a single soul on the earth can tell me that. Every single state, you should show up. No one's stopping you from voting. You have to fill out a paper ballot on the spot, which is counted on that day. You have to show ID. You have to prove that your main residence is in that state. There has to be cameras in the facility and a police officer to make sure there's no shenanigans.
Joe Arsenello, back in the day, and then we're going to let everybody go here at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please, if wherever you're seeing this video on YouTube, Facebook, I'm sure they're going to take us down. But Rumble and X, we're really trying to build up there. Joe Arsenello, listen. Back in the day, I went to First Avenue School in Newark, New Jersey. Okay. On election day, I had no school. Okay. I had no school that day because in the basement, they had the voting booths set up. There were county cops on both sides, on 10th Street and 11th Street, because that's where the two entrances were, to go down to the basement to go and vote. You had tables set up. You had poll workers. You had cops there. And what you did was you walked into the booth. All right. It was not an electronic voting machine. Okay. It was a machine that did use some sort of electronics, but you hit the thing and it registered on a piece of paper. And then they printed out at the end, and that's what they submitted to the county. And then Essex County gave all their votes. So they did the same thing in West Orange, in South Orange, in Maplewood, in Newark, in Belleville, in Bloomfield, and everywhere else. That's the way they used to do it. Now, here's the thing. Back then, and now I'm going to give you the final word for a minute. It wasn't a matter of how the votes were cast. There was never a question about that. Now, was there corruption in Newark? Of course, there were dead people voted, all that kind of nonsense. But how you voted actually mattered. Now what they've gotten to and what they really perfected in 2020 was how we count votes. And that's the problem. That's what's got to change. That's why Tucker did this video with this gentleman. Okay, we have to go back. If we have to go to caveman style. It's paper ballots. You go with a pencil, or unerasable pen. You check off who you want to vote for. It goes in a box. And there's poll watchers, there's lawyers, and everybody counts ballots, and that's who wins. Joe, we got a minute. I'm giving you the last word.
If people do not have faith in the election, you don't have a democracy. Just like if you don't have free speech, you don't have a democracy. These are layups. They're building blocks of every single democracy across the world. There is no reason for mail-in ballots in America. There is no reason, not a single solitary one. And if we have it, expect issues. And that makes us a banana republic. That, frankly, incites problems. And frankly, they want that. They want that.
Well, remember one thing, Joe, and I'll leave the audience with this. Thank you for all the comments, Joe, but I'll leave the audience with this. Remember something. Ultimately, the means by which the government takes more power is through violence. And what we've always said on this show, okay, and there's a lot to be angry about. We get your anger out there, okay? The one thing we have to refrain from is that. Our enemies want that more than anything else. They want pro-life people like Joe and I to go blow up abortion clinics. Ain't going to happen because we ain't going to do it. We're not going to buy into what you want because we've actually read a history book. And we've read and we know that what you want is a violent reaction. But what we need to do is we need to educate people. We need to put pressure on our politicians. We need to put pressure on social media to make sure that videos like this and Tucker Carlson's video and Russell Brand and Joe Rogan and whoever it might be does not get taken down, ever. Allow the free flow of information, and as Joe and I have said on this show a million times, guess what's going to happen? Our enemies won't get elected dog catcher. That's the solution. That, and please, let's look towards God and pray to him for a very good solution. Joe Arsenello, we got to leave it there. I'll give you about 20 seconds for a final comment, Joe.
Ultimately, as Joe said, America is not going to get fixed through politics. And we say this all the time. God, family, and country. America needs to repent. America needs to turn to God. America needs to strengthen families. America needs to go to church. And when we do that, we'll have a better country. We'll thrive again. And frankly, and I'm not talking about a theocracy. I'm simply talking about getting back to basics. And when we get back to basics, America will be back. Until then, it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Thanks for joining us at the front line with Joe and Joe. Please share this video on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble, wherever you see it. Like and subscribe. That would really help us also. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.